Go.
Hello, I am moderator joined by Brett Thomas, and today we've got Thermodynamics VS Fraternity. I'm excited to see whether or not this Thermodynamics team can bring the heat, and to do so they've brought an Armageddon and Oneros, Fleet Hurricane, double Navy Brutix, Ishtar, 2 Vengeance, and 2 Purifier.
Yeah, and Fraternity have brought a flagship ball coming in at 0. They brought what we've seen as the typical kind of 4 battle cruisers with a Navy Harbinger, a normal Harbinger, and 2 Navy Brutixes. They've come at around a range of around about 20, and everything else has come in at around about 50, which is a Hound, Crucifier, 2 Daredevils, and an Oneros.
Yeah, so we have confirmation from the GMs in local that both of the ships that we see in the field that are battleship size are in fact the flagships. So that'll be the Thermodynamics Armageddon looking to shut down the capacitor of those Oneros and the Navy BC Core, while Fraternity looks to do the same to Thermodynamics as well, having the bonus strength newts but not the bonus optimal newts that the Armageddon will have, as compared to the Balgorn, which is a much more shorter newts but also brings webs that the Armageddon doesn't have.
Yeah, this would be an interesting thing to see. If the Armageddon came in here to counter the ball, it should have come more at range. But since they're both at 0, huge amount of volume that the ball can use will be an advantage here. As we see links go off and the match start.
Yeah, so we're already seeing tracking disruption go across to the Fraternity side and counter disruption onto the Thermodynamics side. Thermo primering the Crucifier, the ship that is almost certainly going to be the source of that tracking disruption, and Fraternity being very on point. The Oneros are getting rep effects on top of that Crucifier, but the Balgorn is now tackled, and in turn, the War Destined Oneros is getting reps onto the Purifier of Vordak Caligar.
Yeah, as we see the Balgorn of the Fraternity side is being shot, webbed, and scrammed. It pops some newts onto that Armageddon, but it doesn't seem like it's doing much at the moment. It's saving its newts for a later date. As I say this, it's starting to newt and web the Ishtar.
So one crucial thing to note is that the Vengeance is on top of the Balgorn at 0 and has him locked down in NOS, so he will not get his capacitor drained. This is allowing the Thermodynamic side to kite back as they pull range and allow that Armageddon to use their long-range newts at range away from the Balgorn. And so far, we're not seeing a lot of appreciable damage. Both these attack bars are very low, but the Daredevil of Angry Panda is overextended into the backline of Thermodynamics and has been caught out. And we are actually seeing that the Armageddon of Mahaka has jumped to the opposite side of the arena, to the other side, and now jumped back to the center. So he does have a micro jump drive, what appears to be naturally fit. He's just bouncing back and forth, trying to get away from the side of Fraternity, saving his newts so he can be safe. And he's now got a grappler on top of the Oneros at 0, locking him down and neuting the capacitor.
Yeah, that Oneros is going to be really struggling for cap. It's being heavily neutered, it's being grappled, and the Balgorn can't do anything to stop it. At this time, though, the Ishtar of Thermodynamics is being webbed, it's being neutered, it's being painted, and it's taking a lot of damage. It's whether to see this Oneros can keep it alive.
Yeah, the Oneros of War Destined is going to have a lot of difficulty keeping that Ishtar of God himself up. These Ishtars probably not super heavily tanked, but right now, the Armageddon on the Thermo side is doing an excellent job at counter-neuting the Balgorn, and this Navy Brutix, even though he's not neuted, is struggling to stay up. That will be the newts on the Oneros, forcing him to inject capacitor to get intermittent reps on top of the Brutix. You don't necessarily have to primary the Oneros to effectively shut it out. You just have to make its reps not be as applicable. And so far, Thermodynamics is winning that trade. Navy Brutix is dropping down into hull, and that Ishtar is still maintaining its armor.
Yeah, the Navy Brutix has finally gone down, and this Oneros of John Bush is finally dropping down. It looks like it cannot handle the pressure of this Armageddon on top of it. That was such an amazing play by the Armageddon to pull away from this flag Balgorn out of range, get it a jump to a beacon, and then jump back in on top of this Oneros. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, so they have now switched on the fraternity side to to primary the vengeance of Wild Things. Wild Things has dropped, so that will be the tackle off the Balgorn. But that O'Neills is still grappled, still neuted, and they've now decided that he will be the primary. John Bush does have a small cloud of rep drones that were on him at one point, or that might be a local repair, but he's regaining some armor, now dropping into hull, and it doesn't look like he's able to maintain. Meanwhile, Fraternity is killing the Purifier of Blood Ruin, wanting to get the torp damage off the field that's on top of Nicola, but trading a Purifier for an Oneros is not worth it, and somehow that Purifier is surviving.
Yeah, and we see the second Navy Harbinger of Nicola Creed is finally going down. It's just dropping, it's being neutered, and it's got finally the huge amount of damage that Thermo are still bringing is finally killing it.
Yeah, Thermodynamics is doing an excellent job at just burning through the support of Fraternity. Another Daredevil drops. The Balgorn is being nosed right now to sustain the capacitor of the Armageddon. That Navy Brutix is almost certainly going to have no capacitor and can't shoot, being tracking disrupted. Now being webbed down by this tackle that we're seeing. He's taking a pounding. No hardeners means that he will die rather quickly. The Vengeance of Chesser going down into low hull, being webbed and painted, means that he can't sustain himself. He does finally drop, but in exchange, Light Heaven will fall.
Yeah, as you can see, the huge amount of control bar on the Fraternity side is the amount that this bar can bring. And while it has got an enormous amount of control, it's just got no damage left. Thermodynamics has done an excellent job of just neutering all of Fraternity's damage and controlling this match really well.
Yeah, Fraternity is going to have absolutely no capacitor on that Harbinger of D Mason, getting destroyed. And Small Pay, they're saving this Balgorn as one of the last ships on the field. Makes sense that they want to loot him at the very end, as that Balgorn will almost certainly have some sort of officer fittings. We now see a shrapnel bomb from that Hound trying to go on top of the drones that are sustaining the Thermodynamics Purifier, but it's a bit too little too late. The bombs do go off, so well played by Intaro Dennis, but there's not much Fraternity can actually do.
I think Thermodynamics caught onto the fact that Fraternity's Balgorn was trying to boundary. He was micro warp drive towards the boundary, trying to get away from all the things. But I believe it is an Ishtar has raced in, got to about 500 meters, and scrammed him so he can't move. Which is why they're deciding to primary it now. Because if they let him go, he's going to boundary, and they have no loot left.
Yeah, Thermodynamics is taking advice from Volta. Kill the Balgorn, don't let him boundary. Famous words said by Starfleet Commander, probably being echoed by the captain of Thermodynamics right now, as the Balgorn goes down into low hull. That Balgorn had no gun, so the only remaining damage, even when he was alive, was only going to be the Hound and the Crucifier. Fraternity being tracking disrupted in the Hound, interestingly enough, but excellently played by Thermodynamics. I'm really excited to see them continue in this bracket. I'm a little bit biased because I do have some friends on that team. The Hound now dropping, and Newbie Go Go Go, wonderful name, is going to go out of the arena rather shortly, as he is the final primary of Thermo.
That was such a good match and such a good expression of Armageddon versus Balgorn. And I think with that, we'll send it back to the studio.
We've got the Kings of Losec with Project Mayhem.
Hello everyone, welcome back after that great match. We are here again with myself, Apophany, your regular host, Jintan, and Reload. Guys, what were your thoughts on that match?
Well, it was actually pretty interesting. It was like an E-war war, basically. You had the newts, officer newts, potentially, on the Balgon, and you had officer newt on the Armageddon. And both Bal and Armageddon warped at 0. And what the interesting thing was the Armageddon on the Thermodynamics side actually MJD'd out of position. I think he did this on purpose. And then he waited a minute, baited the Aneros to go in near the center of beacon, and then used an MJD beacon to actually jump on top of the enemy Aneros and just neutered it down.
I think we have a play-by-play of that ready to go, in fact, focusing on the Aneros here that you were mentioning. So here we go, the play-by-play. So we've got the Armageddon, it looks like we're looking at, firing array ready to MJD. Here it goes. We're about to watch it pop off to the side of the arena here. And then there he goes. And then about 2-ish minutes later, I think it's around the 8-minute mark, he's going to jump back onto the arena. So there are guys, so you can watch the Armageddon in the bottom left. There he is, he's going down to MDB and back on top. And now he is right on top of that Aneros. At least he should be nice and close to it. Yep, there he is. Fully in newt range, can absolutely smash him down. Really nice play there by the Geddon, duking that Aneros into position. Beautiful play, beautiful play. Moving on, however, in 9 minutes, we have the next match of the day. That is going to be, I believe it's going to be Shadow Cartel, with their flagship battle still available, versus Project Mayhem, who have lost their flagship battle. So immediately an advantage going to Shadow Cartel there. If we look at what they've won and what they've lost, so Shadow Cartel have beaten of Sound Mind, they lost to Northern Coalition, and beat We Want Your ISK. Project Mayhem have beaten Dreamfleet, lost to Snuffed Out, and beaten Asteria Concord. So both teams winning matches against teams that we didn't really expect to be amazingly strong this year. Losses to Northern Coalition, Snuffed Out. Northern Coalition, I'd say, probably stronger than Snuffed Out this year, but Snuffed Out certainly had a good showing, by all means. What do you guys think of this matchup here of Shadow Cartel versus Project Mayhem? Reload?
It's the battle of Lowsec. You've got Project Mayhem, which is the Russian droppers in Lowsec, and then you've got the Shadow Cartel, which are the elite Lowsec PvPers. So it's going to be a bit of a grudge match, I think.
We have the winner of Thermodynamics versus Fraternity here of the voting. That's Maddie Sokarad. Guys, do remember to vote at vote.eve-nt.uk, which will be spammed in chat for your chance to win a billion ISK every single match. We do now have a graphic coming up of ships chosen by race. Jin, if you take us through this and kind of analyse the data for us.
Sure. So we see a kind of relatively even thing. We're seeing the Amar and the Kaldari lower down, and that's to a certain degree just because they're slower than the Galante and Mimitar, and also because they can bring significantly less utility because they're so focused on one slot type. Obviously, mids and lows are both important in the tournament. But one of the great things to see really is just how much the Serpentis has been seen in this tournament compared to previous. We normally don't see that many Daredevils or Vigilants or Vindicators, but because of the points reduction this year, we've seen a massive spike in it.
Reload, what do you think further looking down into the pirate faction ships?
Well, Angel Cartel, none. Unfortunately, they're not the greatest Alliance tournament ships, even though the Macarial did have Valora Corps' #1 ship there, but unfortunately...
Triple M threat.
Yeah, of course, but Macarials, unfortunately, or Angel Cartel in general, not very good. And then you've got the Blood Raiders, we're seeing a lot of Bowls, so obviously the Quad BC with the Balgon, the really strong ship, and then we've got Garistas. So we're seeing a lot of Gilas and Rattlesnakes recently, especially more Gilas because it is a drone ship, obviously. Mortis Legion, lots of a few Orthruses, so we've got some rapid light stuff going on there. Sisters of Eve, obviously for the Stratioses mostly, and then Sancha is once again very low as well. Nightmares and Phantasms are not great, unfortunately. For
we should now have the bans available for the upcoming match here between Shadow Cartel and. Nope, not on that screen. I do apologise. I should be looking at this channel. We have a lot of things to track, unfortunately, on my little old laptop. So Shadow Cartel have banned the Ishtar and the Stratios. and we have Project Mayhem banning the Guardian and the Oneros. Jintan, tell us about these bans.
Yeah, the Guardian and Neros bans are really at this point of the tournament almost power bans. They're just, they can just force a team onto a Rabisu if they want to, but it's taking out some of those, kind of baseline comps and making people feel unsure about whether they really want to commit to them. Whereas that Ishtar and Stratios comp, those are very targeted. That's was that Project Mayhem who made those bans, or was it
Project Mayhem banned Guardian and Neros?
Okay, so it would be Shadow Cartel then that banned those. They do not want to face a drone team. So the question is that a next level play? And if so, is Project Mayhem going to bring some sort of gimped drone setup and then fall to a counter to that? Or
is that what Shadow Cartel wants all along?
Exactly. It's a leveling game. They know that we know that they know that we know.
Yes. So massive shout out to the viewing party going on at the Alt Lounge. We had Daniel, the manager, there on a little bit earlier. We've got a picture to show you guys of all the fun that they're having over at the viewing party. Just a couple of guys there, more around in the room here, watching beautiful faces of Jintan and Sueternia up on the screen there. That's just in the corner, I believe, of the retro lounge, and then to your right are all the gaming rigs and the VR station, and then to the left is like your PS4, PS1, Nintendo 64 kind of deal. Jin, you went over to the gaming lounge as well, I remember. Was it last weekend with us? Have you visited there yet?
I visited there yesterday after a couple of very strong drinks at the bar that Nash owns.
Oh, right. Okay. So how were your experiences over at the Alt Gaming Lounge?
They were really fun. I played a bit of PUBG with you all, and then I played some of my other favourite games. They had a GameCube with Smash set up on it, and
Oh, you and Melee, man.
I love myself a bit of Melee.
You certainly do. We only have a few minutes before the next match starts. Reload, can I get your prediction for Project Mayhem versus Shadow Cartel?
I'm going to go with Shadow Cartel on this one.
Jintan?
Well, if Project Mayhem are the kings of low-sec, then Shadow Cartel certainly are the queens. So, judging by Game of Thrones, I'm going to go for Shadow Cartel.
Okay, I'm not sure I quite get that reference, but I don't know. Stannis is alive? Something? Okay, so guys, do remember, massive shout out to our sponsors at Chill Blast, giving us a bunch of cool stuff with which to run the stream. We've got the Event London, which you guys should totally go to on the 18th of November. We've got the voting going on still, vote.eve-nt.uk. You should tweet any comments or questions you have for the desk here, for the guys we have on who've come over to Nottingham for the weekend. That's to #ATXV on Twitter. Also, finally, remember to follow and subscribe to the stream and check out our YouTube channel where you can watch all the matches with all the commentary and all the analysis, and we usually upload them within 24-48 hours, so we'll get them up as soon as we possibly can. You can already view, for example, all of last weekend's matches up there already. And then final shout out to the AT viewing tool, which you have seen beautifully displayed of rewatching matches, seeing where the drones went, see where those micro jumps have gone, or those little clutch plays. That is completely available on our website. You can just pick whichever match you want. And not only do we have this year's AT, we have historic ATs going, I believe, all the way back to AT10, I want to say, somewhere around that time. So you can watch legions of tournament history back from the youth of some of these pilots and before perhaps some of us were around. And with that, we will head over to the match between Shadow Cartel and Project Mayhem. Let's see the casters.